I spent 25 years of my life serving as a Marine, dedicating myself to a duty that often pushed me to my limits. My service took me through the harsh terrains of Afghanistan and Iraq, places that tested my resilience both physically and mentally. The brotherhood I shared with my fellow Marines and the sense of responsibility toward my country kept me going, even in the most challenging moments. War was brutal. I witnessed the worst of humanity and the fragility of life, but I also experienced moments of courage and unity that will remain with me forever. Coming home after those long tours was always bittersweet. My wife, Nancy, held our family together during my absence, and knowing she was there made the time away from home bearable. We built a life together, raising 2 daughters, Maria, now 20 and pursuing a career in medicine, and her younger sister, 17, a part-time teacher preparing for independence. When I retired, I founded a security company, applying the skills I honed in the Marines to a new purpose. It was a demanding venture, requiring frequent travel as the business expanded into other cities. On one such trip, I came home to find Maria unusually quiet and distant. Her recent breakup had hit her hard, and as a father, I wanted to help her heal. But the conversation we had changed my life forever. That evening, I took Maria out for coffee to talk. At first, she resisted opening up, but eventually, she broke down in tears. What she told me left me speechless. Maria revealed that Nancy, my wife of over 2 decades, had been unfaithful. She overheard Nancy on the phone with another man, planning their meetups while I was away on business. Worse, Maria had seen text messages and photos that confirmed her suspicions. She hesitated to share this with me, fearing the fallout, but after seeing how it affected her, I knew I couldn't ignore it. I asked Maria to keep this between us for the time being. She agreed, assuring me that whatever I decided, she would stand by me. At home, I began investigating on my own. Logging into Nancy's email and social media accounts, I uncovered more evidence than I could have imagined. Intimate videos and explicit photos she had sent to her lover were among the files. Their messages mocked me, calling me a fool and making jokes about my PTSD. Every word cut deeper than the last. I saved everything onto a hard drive and tried to process what I had just learned. I had faced death countless times, watched comrades fall, and endured unspeakable hardships, but this betrayal felt like the cruelest blow of all. I had always treated Nancy with respect. I never raised my voice at her, let alone my hand, even when she lashed out at me during my struggles with PTSD. I needed to know who this man was. Calling on a few retired Marine friends, brothers who had served alongside me, I explained the situation and asked for their help. They didn't hesitate to stand by me. Together, we discovered that Nancy's affair was with Donald, her college boyfriend. He had a history of cheating and had left her back then for another woman. Now, years later, they had reconnected. Our research revealed more. Donald was a petty criminal with a record of drug trafficking and theft. Then came the most devastating discovery. My younger daughter was not biologically mine. A DNA test confirmed it. Only Maria was truly my blood. The betrayal ran deeper than I ever thought possible. Despite my anger, I decided I needed to confront Donald face to face, even though my friends urged me not to go alone. I didn't listen. At a bar, I found Donald drinking with his friends. As soon as he saw me, he mocked me, calling me a lucky husband for being oblivious to his years-long relationship with Nancy. He leaned in close, whispering that my younger daughter was his child. His arrogance and cruelty were unbearable, but I held my composure. Then he crossed the line. Insulting my PTSD, he sneered that my fellow Marines must also be wimps, with wives just as lonely as Nancy. I shoved him away, and he stumbled, pulling a gun on me as he regained his balance. I managed to disarm him, but he grabbed a fork from a nearby table and lunged at me. Instinctively, I defended myself, landing a punch that sent him to the floor. Donald collapsed, and shortly after being taken to the hospital, he died from a heart attack brought on by years of drug abuse. The police confirmed I had acted in self-defense, but the incident weighed heavily on me. That night, I didn't return home. Instead, I stayed with a friend and sought legal advice the following morning. The lawyer recommended another paternity test for my younger daughter, but I hesitated. I already knew the truth. Regardless of biology, I had raised her, and she would always be my daughter. When I finally returned home, Nancy confronted me in front of our daughters. Her fury boiled over, and she struck me across the face. For the first time in my life, I hit back, not out of rage, but to end the chaos. She stumbled, dazed, and I asked her calmly why she cared so much about Donald. Her answer was chilling. He was the love of her life, and she wished I had died instead of him. Her confession shattered what little remained of our marriage. She admitted that she had stayed with me not out of love, but because I was a stable provider while Donald was little more than a fling. Her words disgusted me. I told her to leave the house and never come back. What followed was even more painful. My younger daughter, unaware of her true parentage, confronted Nancy. Overcome with emotion, she spat in her mother's face before running to her room in tears. Maria, however, stood by my side, offering unwavering support as I began the process of filing for divorce. The next few days were a blur of emotional fallout and legal proceedings. Nancy's mother called, furious, accusing me of ruining her daughter's life. I calmly told her the truth and shared the evidence of Nancy's infidelity. After seeing the videos, photos, and messages, she was horrified and offered a teary apology. I ended the call, unwilling to entertain her further. I served Nancy with divorce papers, citing irreconcilable differences and submitting all the evidence to the court. When the hearing came, the judge ruled in my favor. Nancy was denied alimony, and the court recognized her infidelity as the primary reason for the breakdown of our marriage. Since our younger daughter was nearly an adult and living with me, child support wasn't an issue. As for my daughters, I chose not to tell the younger one about the paternity test. She had been my daughter in every sense that mattered, and I refused to let biology define our bond. Despite everything, I wanted to shield her from the ugliness of the situation. But I couldn't protect Nancy from the consequences of her actions. After the divorce was finalized, I sent the evidence of her affair to our mutual friends and family. I wanted everyone to know the truth, not out of spite, but because I refused to let her paint herself as a victim. Nancy, now ostracized by nearly everyone she knew, tried to reach out to me through various channels. I ignored her. She had made her choices, and I had no obligation to offer her closure or forgiveness. Amid this chaos, the memories of my confrontation with Donald lingered. The aftermath of his death brought mixed feelings. On one hand, I felt justified. He had threatened me, insulted my honor, and paid the price for his actions. On the other hand, his death served as a grim reminder of how easily violence can spiral out of control. Despite the legal clearance, the incident weighed on me. The police report corroborated my story, and the officer who witnessed the scene assured me that I had acted in self-defense. Still, knowing that my actions contributed to someone's death, even a man like Donald, was difficult to process. My daughters remained my priority. Maria was my rock throughout this ordeal, standing by me with unwavering loyalty. The younger one, though hurt and confused by her mother's betrayal, continued to love me as her father. She never asked why her mother had left so abruptly, and I chose to let the matter rest, focusing instead on rebuilding our lives. Meanwhile, Nancy's desperation only grew. Her pleas for reconciliation became more frantic, and she began to spiral. She even went as far as to accuse me of turning the family against her. But her own words and actions had sealed her fate. She was left to face the consequences alone. One of the hardest moments came when my younger daughter asked me if her mother would ever come back. I didn't lie. I told her that her mother had made choices that hurt the family deeply and that it was better for all of us to move forward. It wasn't easy, but it was the truth she needed to hear. As I started piecing my life back together, I leaned on my friends from the Marines. Their unwavering support reminded me that even in the darkest times, the bonds of brotherhood endure. I began focusing on my business and ensuring my daughters had a stable and supportive home. In the months that followed, life began to settle into a new normal. My relationship with Maria grew stronger, and she became a source of immense pride and support. My younger daughter, though hurt, seemed to adjust as well. She remained in my care, and I continued to treat her as the daughter I had always known. Nancy faded from our lives. The divorce finalized the end of a relationship that had been broken long before I discovered the truth. She tried reaching out a few more times, but I refused to respond. She had no place in my life anymore. My focus shifted entirely to my daughters and my business. The security company thrived, and I used my work to distract myself from the pain of the past. At home, I made a conscious effort to be present for my daughters, ensuring they never felt the weight of the betrayal that had shaken our family. Looking back, the pain of Nancy's infidelity and the loss of the life I thought I had built will always linger. But I've come to accept that some battles aren't worth fighting, and not every wound heals the way you expect. My daughters are my legacy, and they remind me every day that there is still good in my life worth holding on to. I don't know where Nancy ended up, and frankly, I don't care. Her choices were her own, and she has to live with the consequences. As for Donald, I've made peace with what happened, knowing I acted to protect myself in a moment where I had no other choice. I've learned that strength isn't about winning every fight but about knowing when to walk away and rebuild. My story isn't one of defeat or regret but of resilience and the unbreakable bond between a father and his children. If you're going through betrayal or loss, remember that it's okay to grieve, but don't let it define you. Focus on what truly matters: your family, your purpose, and your integrity. Life can knock you down, but getting back up is what matters most. If you found this story moving, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more real-life stories and advice to help you navigate life's toughest challenges.